It's like this when he talks in his videos. He's like, okay guys, so today I'm here to tell you about why the LBZ is the coolest truck in the world, because I've wanted one since I was 2 and they're shit boxes now, but I love them. Okay, so apparently I'm doing this video because I've bought plenty of cheap shitty trucks, which I low-key took as an insult because I definitely overpaid for a few of my old shit boxes, so maybe this is one of those what to look for when overpaying for a truck that should have been cheap but is just as shitty. I don't know, but anyways, I'm Junior with Custom Offsets, and today I have your buying guide for cheap used trucks. As always, we have wheels, tires, suspension, accessories, performance, lighting, and everything else to complete your cheap used truck build and make it look like your own. CustomOffsets.com. So first thing is first, and maybe you can skip this step if you already know what you want, but step one is to obviously figure out what you want. It seems pretty simple, right? Like, just say you want a Ford because your grandpa had one at one point, so that's what you should get too, right? And not exactly. Don't get me wrong, some people out there continue the tradition, generation over generation, of purchasing the same make of pickup because that's what they just know and have been surrounded by, but that may not always be the case or the best option if you don't know what you want to get into. Figure out what your needs are first. Do you need a 1500 or a diesel or an OBS dually to pull your Bronco across the country to shows? Hypothetically speaking, of course. After that, find out what you think looks best and is worth researching. You know, you got Ford, Chevy/GM, and Dodge are kind of known as the big three, but maybe a Tacoma looks cool, or the Nissan Titan Cummins sounds interesting, or maybe the Honda Ridgeline. Just kidding. No one likes those.
Got him! Got him!
So once you figure out your needs and body style, then it's into the budget you'd like to spend and finding what trucks fall into those categories. I'm no financial advisor, so I don't have a step on figuring out how your truck budget's gonna work into all of that.
I am once again asking for your financial support.
I just know Google has a sick automotive calculator that'll break down your payments per month, if that's your type of thing, and then you'll know kind of what your monthly cost breakdown is and what you're getting yourself into. After looking online at what's out there, you may like your 04 to 08 F-150s based on the price and the looks and maybe the interior options and like that, but is that the best pick that fits your budget? That leads to the next step. Time to do some research. So far to recap, you know what type of pickup you need, you know what model you're tackling, and you know what your budget that you're looking to spend is gonna be. Now is probably the worst but most important part of it all. Do your motherfucking research. Diving into the vehicle prepares you for what you may be purchasing. Check out the forums for engine issues, transmission issues, basically anything that the vehicle can just be notorious for. That way you not only know what you're getting into for repairs down the road, but you're ready for whatever may happen on that drive home. Reading up on the 6.0 Power Strokes and knowing that you probably want one that's already been bulletproof will come in handy when you go to purchase your first diesel and wonder why certain ones are so cheap on Marketplace. Part of the benefit of me buying so many OBS Fords was knowing all of the issues that I had with my first one from the Wisconsin salt and the winters and what was all destroyed and needed to be replaced, and then looking for those issues and making sure that I wasn't going to fall for that same song and dance with a new Bronco. It also helped out that I went far out west to pick up one, which leads me to my next point. If you're shopping for a cheap old used and abused truck, then there's a good chance you're looking local since you want something that's affordable and quick to pick up and bring home. Some people might not care, especially if you've been blessed enough to live below the Salt Belt. You can pick up basically anything you want without worrying about the suspension being seized tight or the floors just not existing. Ask me how I know. You obviously are going to have added costs when you go to travel to get a new to you truck, and those are going to be factors you want to take into consideration immediately when you plan it all out. If you're flying out, how much is the one-way ticket to the closest airport to the seller? Then you got to figure out if you need an Uber or a rental to get to the seller, or if he's nice enough to meet you at the airport and y'all can figure it out from there. When I bought my dually, the seller actually drove from Orlando to meet me in Nashville, and then I flew to Nashville to meet him there, checked out the truck, drove it around, and then dropped him back off at the airport so he could fly back home as I then made the drive north back home myself. When you have a seller who's flexible and easy to work with, it not only makes the sale easier, but it also gives you a sense of trust in the person and the vehicle you're about to purchase.
I trust you.
If he can't work with you a little bit as you come across the country, why should you feel safe purchasing his vehicle and driving it back home? Gut feeling is a big thing when it comes to picking up a vehicle from someone and somewhere you aren't familiar with. Holy shit. Come to think of it, every vehicle I own now, I've driven minimum 10 hours to go pick up. I also like old boxes that are in good condition, so it kind of forces me out of Wisconsin to find what I want. But I'm telling you, it's so worth it. You also need to calculate gas costs and hotel prices if you're driving back from California 32 hours in a Bronco. And then factor in the cost of overheating your engine and the LS swapping it, and I digress. There are sites like Gas Buddy that will find the cheapest gas near you, or you can even just use their trip cost calculator to figure out roughly how much gas will cost to get you to where you're going. And then a left will take you to the interstate, but a right will bring you back here to, you get the idea. Personally, I'll drive 12 to 14 hours a day because that's what I know I can handle safely while still being able to operate, like physically operate and operate a vehicle. There's no sense in trying to brag about driving for 18 hours straight, but if your last 4 hours are driving through ditches and fields because you can hardly stay awake, drive safe, drive smart. I feel like one of those LED word signs that make you feel like a piece of shit on holidays. Make sure your mother sees you alive on Mother's Day and not in a burning pile of rubble because you decided to text and drive, you piece of shit. Like, damn, damn.
Damn, Daniel, back at it again with the white
I forget what I was talking about. Oh yeah, just make sure you factor in hotels and gas into your adventure when you go to get a new truck. And I mean, the adventure is the most fun part to me. Some people view it as a waste of time, and that's cool, but for me, it's another memory and an exciting, cool start to beginning a new build. One last thing to note when traveling south for a clean truck is it's a perfect platform to start your build on. It makes working on it so much easier. If you're from up north, you can feel my pain and know just how fun it is to torch bolts to get them off. It ain't fun. My black Bronco was from Wisconsin and probably bent its whole entire life. It only had 103,000 miles, but I could have Flintstone that bitch if I'd wanted to. When we started working on it, the ground was more covered in rust than ground. It was bad. Flipped my white Bronco I picked up from California, which had actually lived its whole life in Nevada, and everything came apart super easy and made for a quick swap of the suspension. So worth it. Boom. So you done your research, you know the type of truck and model you want, you booked your flight out and planned when you're taking off to make the trip back home, and you make it there. Because you read through forums and watched a few walkarounds on YouTube, you already know what to look for in the truck when you get there. But check things like the rockers and cab corners just to make sure they're good. And hey, if they are, admire that shit. Because I tell you what, a cat eye with clean rockers is a beautiful sight for sore eyes up here in Wisconsin. Check the oil and trans fluid, make sure the previous owner confirms that the fuel pump and sending unit don't do some f***y shit and that your gas gauge actually works properly, you're probably good to go. Obviously check for leaks as you're doing your walk around, and don't be afraid to get under that truck and make sure that it looks good before you commit to purchase. Ensure it's everything you wanted and hoped it would be. The seller can be a stickler too because they've kind of got you pinned, right? They know that you have no way to get back home, but you shouldn't need to feel the pressure if it isn't what you want. I'd rather spend $300 on a plane ticket and that be it, rather than spend $10,000 on a shitty truck that I feel obligated to buy just because I flew out to get it. Brad drove all the way to Missouri to pick up a truck that he didn't even end up buying because the seller was like insisting on the price, and Brad drove there with truck and trailer ready to pick it up. If you don't like it, you don't need to pick it up. You go there with a truck and trailer insisting on picking this thing up or expecting to. Come to find out it's not what you want, saving yourself $8,000, no big deal. I told y'all, getting a truck across the country isn't easier, promise. There's kind of some risk involved in it, but it is worth it. One last thing I recommend is to bring an OBD2 reader and plug it into the reader plug thingy and just make sure there's no codes before you start your trek back home. Just one final read to be safe and give peace of mind before heading back. That way too, if anything pops up on the drive home, you can read the codes and know if there's actually something wrong with it or it's just a bad O2 sensor. And then, after you get back home, you already know what to do. You gotta head to customoffsets.com, check out all the lifts, wheels, and tires that are available for your new build. That's all I got for you. Peace.